Okay, let's dive into this. When most of us watch a professional tennis match, we see the grace, the power, and just the sheer athleticism on display. But actually, beneath the surface of every swinging racket and sliding footstep lies a highly complex, evolutionary, and biomechanical battlefield. Today's explainer is going to strip away the aesthetics and look straight at the raw data. We're going to examine the modern game of tennis from the ground up, uncovering how racket physics, human physiology, and some seriously advanced coaching theories have completely re-engineered the sport.
We've got a clear roadmap for this explainer. We're starting at the micro level with the evolution of rally lengths, then we'll dissect the aggressive baseliner and uncover the hidden physiological toll all this takes. After that, we'll zoom out to decode dynamic systems theory, and finally see how this science is engineering the modern serve.
So, let's kick things off with part 1, the evolution of rally lengths and the baseline shift.
If I were to ask you right now how long an average tennis rally lasts, you might immediately think of some epic 20-shot moonball exchange you saw highlighted on TV. Our brains are naturally wired to remember those marathon, lung-busting rallies, right? Well, what's really interesting about this data is the actual reality. It comes down to a single mind-blowing number, 2.9. According to deep data analysis from Brain Game Tennis, 2.9 is the average number of shots per rally at the US Open. That means the serve goes in, the return comes back, maybe one more shot is hit, and boom, the point is over. Despite all the baseline grinding we associate with today's game, the vast majority of points are lightning fast, decided in under 4 shots. It's really a sport of brief, violent explosions rather than extended endurance tests.
But it absolutely wasn't always this way. Think back to the 1970s serve and volley era. Back then, players wielded heavy wooden rackets on highly slick, fast courts, while sporting some impossibly tiny shorts, I might add, resulting in a game entirely defined by rapid forward movement to the net. Contrast that with the modern era. The introduction of lightweight graphite frames and polyester strings completely upended the physics of the sport. It allowed players to generate massive topspin. Add in a deliberate slowing down of court surfaces by tournament organizations, and the tactical advantage shifted way backward, leading to total baseline domination. The tools changed, the environment changed, and so the athlete had to evolve.
That brings us to part 2, anatomy of the aggressive baseliner and how they control the chaos. Out of that evolutionary shift, born from graphite and slower courts, emerged a very specific, totally dominant tactical persona that rules the tour today.
There's this fantastic breakdown from a USDA Tactical Insight that perfectly captures this. It says, the aggressive baseliner looks to dictate play with their forehand, using heavy topspin to push the opponent back and open up the court. And honestly, this isn't just a playing style. It is the absolute engine driving the pacing and spatial dynamics of modern tennis. By imparting massive rotations per minute onto the ball, these players create a heavy, high-bouncing shot that literally pushes their opponent physically off the baseline. It creates these wild geometrical angles to hit into. It's aggressive dictatorial tennis, but it's being played from 30 feet back.
So the crucial point is, how do you actually defend against this? Let's break down the tactical matrix. When the aggressive baseliner hits heavy topspin to the backhand, the opponent has to counter by taking the ball early on the rise or using a slice to neutralize that nasty bounce. When the baseliner tries to dictate with an inside-out forehand, the counter is to hit deep, flat, and straight down the middle to completely erase those dangerous angles. And because the baseliner uses high-margin net clearance to play it safe, a smart opponent will drag them way out of their comfort zone with short, low slices, forcing them to run forward. It's literally a high-speed game of physical chess.
Let's move on to part 3, the hidden physiological toll. We've talked about the tactics, sure, but to execute that heavy topspin chess match, point after point, requires a physiological engine that borders on the superhuman. What's actually happening inside the player's body out there?
If we break down the energy contribution, you might assume from those explosive 2.9-shot rallies we just talked about that tennis is entirely an anaerobic sport, all about short, high-intensity bursts, right? Well, you'd be partially right. The actual hitting of the ball does rely heavily on that 30% anaerobic energy contribution. But check out that massive 70% aerobic slice. The foundation of modern tennis is deeply aerobic. Why? Because that massive aerobic engine is exactly what allows the player's body to recover in the tiny 25-second window between those brutal, violent anaerobic sprints. You need the anaerobic power to win the 3-shot rally, but you need the aerobic capacity to do it 300 times in a single afternoon.
Let's actually slow down here for a second and look at what happens when that engine is pushed to its absolute breaking point during a grueling 5-set match. The physiological toll is a cascading sequence of biological alarms.
First, you get severe glycogen depletion in the fast-twitch muscle fibers, meaning the player literally loses their explosive first step. Then, significant fluid and electrolyte loss begins to directly impact cognitive focus. Decision-making starts to blur. This leads straight into neuromuscular fatigue, which alters the player's biomechanical form, massively risking injury. Finally, prolonged baseline exchanges spike blood lactate levels, flooding the muscles with that heavy, burning sensation. What we're witnessing is the absolute limit of human endurance playing out in real time.
Which brings us to part 4, decoding dynamic systems theory. If the modern game requires explosive three-shot power, massive topspin angles, and a physiological engine that can withstand cascading biological failure, how on earth do elite coaches actually train a human being to do this?
The answer lies in a fascinating concept called dynamic systems theory. In plain terms, it's a motor learning framework that views the athlete as a complex, adaptable system that self-organizes to find the most efficient movement solutions in response to chaotic, ever-changing environmental constraints. Think of it kind of like a highly advanced sports car constantly adjusting its traction control on a bumpy, unpredictable road. Coaches don't view players as robots meant to repeat one perfect, identical stroke over and over anymore. Every single incoming ball has a different spin, speed, and height. Therefore, the player is a machine constantly recalibrating their joints and muscles to solve the immediate chaos of the ball flying at them.
And this brilliantly illustrates how that dense academic theory translates directly to the practice court. Step 1, the coach identifies the constraint, let's say defending against a heavy, high-bouncing ball. Step 2, instead of feeding the exact same ball from a basket 50 times, the coach introduces extreme variability in the practice feeds. Step 3 is where the magic happens. The coach steps back and allows the athlete's neuromuscular system to organically self-organize. They let the body figure out the most efficient way to hit the ball. Finally, step 4, they stabilize that new adaptable movement pattern. It's all about building a flexible problem solver, not a rigid robot.
Let's head into our final section, Part 5, Engineering the Modern Serve. We're now going to apply everything we've just learned, the short rallies, the biomechanics, the dynamic learning theory, to the single most important, controllable shot in tennis, the serve.
If we trace the evolution of serve training over the last few decades, it's pretty wild. In the 1990s, training was all about linear, repetition-based block practice, literally just hitting 100 serves into the exact same corner. In the 2000s, tech arrived with biomechanical video analysis, letting coaches tweak joint angles frame by frame. By the 2010s, we saw the implementation of nonlinear pedagogy, introducing that variability we just talked about. And that brings us to the present, the era of multiple training models that blend chaotic constraints, video analysis, and intense physical conditioning into one super integrated practice session.
Let's move on and see how this builds into real-world results. When researchers compare traditional block practice, hitting the same serve repeatedly, against the chaotic multiple training model, the results are just staggering. Block practice might make you look flawless in a quiet, relaxed practice session, but it yields lower skill retention during a real match. The multiple training model, however, results in significantly higher skill retention when the player is actually under extreme match pressure. By practicing in chaos, the athlete's nervous system is basically inoculated against the stress of a real game.
So, we've journeyed from the shocking reality of a 2.9-shot average rally, through the aggressive baseline tactics, deep into the physiological toll of glycogen depletion, and all the way out to the advanced motor learning theories shaping today's athletes. Which leaves us with this final, truly profound question. As sports science, racket technology, and advanced coaching continue to push human physiology to its absolute limit, how much longer can the modern rally actually get? Are we nearing the peak of biomechanical efficiency, or is the evolution of the sport just getting started? It's definitely something to keep in mind the next time you watch a heavy topspin forehand completely blow open the court. Thanks for joining me on this explainer. I really hope this gave you a brand new lens through which to view the incredible game of modern tennis.